Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. This is the December 2020 OC HMIS user meeting. If you haven't already, please enter your agency name in the chat box and we're going to get started. So we have kind of a packed agenda for you today. First, we're going to go over the HMIS user license fees proposal, talk about the CES data migration for the individual system. There are some new CES canned reports that we'll discuss, the 2020 HIC and sheltered pit process, our update on the monthly user training webinars, a new HMIS user survey, some new BitFocus features, an update to the revocation of consent process, some feedback we received on the HMIS Part 2 skills test. We'll go over the agenda for the upcoming Data and Performance Management Committee meeting, an update on the 2020 HMIS agency audit process. And then we have an agency presentation today from Friendship Shelter, who's going to talk about some of the training that they do at their agency for new HMIS users. We have some holiday closure updates, and then we'll do a Q&A. All right, and Erin's up first.
Hello, everyone. Yeah. So quick update on the HMIS user fees. Thank you everybody for your feedback on both of the proposals that we have shared. We will be sharing the final proposal at the upcoming Policies, Procedures, and Standards Committee meeting on December 8th, and then also at the COC board meeting on December 17th. In the meeting minutes, we'll include the link for the PPS meeting so that you can attend and give your feedback on the final proposal, because we're expecting to send this to the COC board in December and hopefully implement in January. So just to let you know where we're at, for those that may or may not recall, we've shared two proposals. The first was in regards to charging agencies based on the number of licenses that they have in proportion to the enrollments that they've entered. And the feedback we received is that policy doesn't or punishes agencies that are trying to have their users complete their own data entry, rather than having like a data entry person, and not allowing users to complete their own data entry means that we will not be able to move towards live data entry, which is ultimately the goal. The second proposal we shared was a flat fee for all of those agencies that receive funding that requires HMIS participation. And some of the feedback we received on that is that there are some agencies receiving funding that requires HMIS participation that are very small and have maybe 1 or 2 users, and that the flat fee would be a larger burden for them. So now we're kind of trying to balance the two proposals and come up with something that takes kind of both of those positions into account. So please plan to attend those meetings so that you can hear the latest proposal and give feedback. So again, 12/8 is the Policies, Procedures, and Standards Committee, and that's the meeting where you'll probably get the most opportunity to provide your feedback, and that's at 3:30. And then the COC board meeting is where the policy will be officially approved, and that's December 17th at 1. Okay, I think that's it for that one. So, coordinated entry. We are going to be migrating in the individual coordinated entry system data into HMIS this month. It is very thrilling. For those of you that are involved in the process, you know that right now all of the data for VI SPDATs is being entered into a Google Doc, and that process is being managed manually in Excel spreadsheets and Google Docs and things. So all of that will be going into HMIS this month. As part of the migration, we will be migrating clients that were active on the prioritization list on or after July 1st of this year. And the last day for agencies to enter data into the prioritization list, as you have been, will be on December 8th at 4 p.m. And then after that time, there will be a blackout period where you will no longer be able to enter data into the prioritization list. And the expected go live date in HMIS will be December 23rd. And if there's changes to that date, we'll be letting everybody know, but we're expecting about a 2-week blackout period. Next slide, please. So as part of the coordinated entry migration, there's a couple things that the agencies that are participating in the individual coordinated entry system should be doing. The first is to make sure that any data you have as of December 8th gets onto that prioritization list by 4 p.m. To ensure that that data gets migrated into HMIS and it's accurate and complete. The second is, if you haven't already, complete the HMIS coordinated entry training by December 23rd. If you've already completed this training for the family system, then you're good to go and you don't need to do anything. But if you haven't yet, you will need to do that in order to have access to complete your coordinated entry work in HMIS. And then also, if you're an access point and you usually complete VI SPDATs for clients for the individual coordinated entry system, you will need to keep paper forms or some other similar method for your VI SPDATs during this blackout period. And then once we are live in HMIS, those enrollments in VI SPDATs will need to be manually entered into HMIS. And then if you are thinking to yourself, I want to be involved in coordinated entry and I am not, we can work on that also. So enter a ticket with us and let us know if you're interested in participating in coordinated entry and you are not already. And for the individuals, we will send you on to Rebecca, who is overseeing that process, and she can approve you as an access point. And for families, it's a little more tight. That would need to be approved by the Family Solutions Collaborative. And I'm not sure if they are taking additional access points right now, but we can ask. So any questions about the migration? While you're typing, I did see one about the HMIS fees. Is the HMIS fee an eligible cost for the COC grants? Yes, there is a line item for HMIS in there. I don't see any questions about this, so I think that's, oh, never mind. Allison's working on it. Allison wants to be unmuted, Casey.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I just thought it was easier to ask. Would you mind repeating the third box there in terms of the details? So after go live, complete data entry into HMIS. Can you just go over that point as well so that we can be prepared as agencies on what we need to complete there?
Yes, so if you are continuing to complete VI SPDATs during the blackout period, so that's after December 8th at 4 p.m. until go live, which is expected to be December 23rd. If you're still working or still completing VI SPDATs, you will need to complete them on paper forms. And then once we are live in HMIS, you'll have to complete the data entry for those enrollments and VI stats in HMIS. So we can send out a copy of those forms so that you can make sure you're collecting all of the information that will be needed. Which software will be blacked out? So right now, the VI stats are being entered into a Google Doc for the individual coordinated entry system. So that's going to be locked starting after 4 p.m. on 12/8. And then, so you won't be able to do data entry into that Google Doc anymore. And then starting on the 23rd, you will be doing that data entry into HMIS. If you're part of the family coordinated entry system, you can disregard all of this. This doesn't impact you. Will the match meeting be done differently during the blackout period? I think it will mostly remain the same during the blackout period from what I understand from Rebecca. So she will still have the prioritization list and the agencies can continue to put in their housing opportunities the way they have been during the blackout period. And Rebecca will be completing matches based on the prioritization list as of December 8th at 4 p.m. So that process will remain the same until the go live on the 23rd. You just won't be able to submit new clients for match during that 2 weeks. All right, so it's looking like questions have slowed down. So Casey, I think we can move on, but if anything comes up during the meeting, please put it in the chat and we can always come back.
Okay. So next up, just in time as we welcome the individual coordinated entry system to HMIS, Bitfocus has released 7 new canned reports that use CES data, and canned reports are the reports that you access from the report library. We've published a knowledge base article that provides a description of the new reports and a link to Bitfocus's detailed article about each report. There are new reports to look at how many assessments your agency has done in a given time period, who's conducting the assessments, and who is getting assessed, which clients. You can also look at referrals that are coming to your agency or being made by your agency, and assessment data quality. So we will include a link to that new knowledge base article in today's meeting minutes, and we encourage you guys to check out these new canned reports. And not seeing any questions, but if any questions come up, again, put them in the chat box. All right, if your agency has an emergency shelter, transitional housing, rapid rehousing, or PSH OPH project, please keep an eye on your inbox for an email coming up that will contain detailed instructions for this year's HIC and sheltered pit process. It will include information on reports to run to check for data quality on the clients that are housed on the night of this year's HIC and sheltered pit, which is January 25th. The email will also include information on what you can do to prepare for the night of the HIC so that there hopefully won't be a big backlog of data entry to complete after the night of the count. And this year we've updated the HIC Excel form where you list your projects and your bed information so that there's more information in the form itself, which will hopefully help you fill out the form as you go without having to refer back to training materials or other documentation. And we're hoping it'll just streamline the process. All right. Last month on November 19th, we held the Looker for Beginners training for the second time, and we hope it was helpful for those of you who attended. If you were unable to attend, you can find the materials from that training and all of our past trainings on ochmis.org by clicking the HMIS help menu and then clicking on HMIS monthly training webinars in the dropdown. This month, we will do the monthly training on December 31st, and the topic is coordinated entry. So if you're interested in attending this month's webinar, please make sure to register using the link that will be provided in today's meeting materials. All right. Also in today's meeting materials, we will be including a link to the latest HMIS user survey, and we encourage all of you to take it so that you can let us know how we're doing and what we could do to help you more. The survey is totally optional and anonymous, and we encourage all HMIS users to participate, including users who are not agency administrators. So please plan some time, probably about 15 to 20 minutes to complete the survey by Wednesday, December 16th. The feedback we get from these surveys is really helpful for us to plan for the upcoming months, new training materials and things like that. So we really appreciate your participation. All right, so we have a couple of BitFocus features that are coming up. They will be available on the live HMIS site on December 14th, so you won't see them when you log into HMIS now, but you will after you log in on the 14th. So first, it will be possible to assign multiple users to a client's enrollment as their assigned staff or assigned case managers. And to do this, the process is pretty much the same. You'll just click the edit icon next to the client's currently assigned staff, and then click the checkboxes of any staff members you want to assign to the client's enrollment, and then click Save. Next is a new feature on the reports library page that will allow you to mark your favorite reports as favorites. So to mark a report as a favorite, you'll click the star icon next to the little run button, and that report will be available in a new folder called Favorite Reports. Favoriting a report also saves the parameters you last used to run the report. And if you have additional agency access, you can set whether your favorite reports apply to all agencies you have access to or just your home agency by adjusting. There's a new favorite reports dropdown field in your account setting page. And one more update for the canned reports are two sections in the sidebar that list all reports that you've processed in the last 24 hours in the processed reports section. And in the scheduled reports section, it'll list any reports that you have scheduled that have not yet been processed. All right, so we've updated the process for completing a client's request to revoke their consent to share protected personal information in HMIS just a little bit. The knowledge base article on this subject has already been updated, and we will include a link to it in today's meeting materials. So first, you will fill out the client revocation of consent form with the client and make sure the form is signed both by the agency administrator who is processing the request and the client. Then you'll upload a PDF of the signed form to the client's profile in HMIS on the Files tab. There's a new file category called Client Revocation of Consent Form where this form should be saved. Then you'll enter a ticket with the HMIS help desk letting us know that there is a revocation of consent to process, and make sure you include the client's identifier in your ticket, but make sure to not include the client revocation of consent form, since this form includes the client's full name. Okay, next up, we've received feedback on the HMIS skills test in the weeks leading up to this year's recertification deadline about the amount of time the test took, and we are definitely taking that to heart as we plan for next year's process. We also just wanted to kind of explain a little more why the skills test includes HMIS functionalities that your agency may not be using a lot. And we did this because even though your agency may not use these functionalities like case notes, services, or even group enrollments, we want everyone to be aware of all of HMIS's capabilities in case the data collection needs of your agency change, so that you'll be prepared to start using, whatever functionality your agency may determine would be useful in the future. Also, since everyone's HMIS accounts have access to all of these functionalities, we need to have some way to check that people understand how they're supposed to be used, since everyone has access to them. Next year's recertification process will be different as we take everyone's feedback into account, but it will still include some sort of skills check. Before we implemented the skills test, there was no kind of like hands-on functionality-based testing involved in the HMIS training process to gain access to HMIS, and this can have an impact on data quality. So we looked at the results of the skills test and found that a pretty significant percentage of users were unable to enter global household compositions, program household compositions, and project start and exit dates totally correctly. So these are issues that affect things like the LSA and other HUD reporting. So we definitely need to keep, implementing some sort of check on these functionalities, which will hopefully also reduce the data correction burden on you all when these reports come around. Okay, so I think up next we have Linda. Linda?
Yes. So the Data and Performance Committee meeting is now back in session and will be held on Thursday, December 10th from 1:30 to 3 p.m. And this is going to be through Zoom. I have included the link of the Zoom meeting as well as the password, and I will also be including this in the meeting minutes as well. We will be going over on how to cascade enrollment and assessment data, and then also the Transitional Housing Project Performance Report. We look forward to seeing you.
Okay, Linda, just a sec. Got a question about the skills test. Will we be able to regain access to our accounts without completing the skills test? No. So if your account was locked because you didn't complete the recertification process by the 20th, you will need to complete the skills test and have your agency administrator submit the HMIS account update and testing form in order for us to unlock your account. Okay.
So we are coming to the end of the 2020 HMIS agency audits. The last and final round of scheduling emails have been sent out. There are still a few agencies that we have not yet received a response. So please, agency administrators, check your inbox and even your junk folder, as a response is needed to schedule your 2020 HMIS agency audit. I will be sending out another round of reminder emails today for the remaining agencies. So please be on the lookout for that if your agency has not completed an audit this year. We look forward to hearing from you.
Okay, sorry, I just got a question about the last slide. Are you going to send an email with the link for the December 10th Zoom meeting? The link will be included in the materials that we send out today for today's meeting.
Up next, I would like to present Connor Stevenson from Friendship Shelter. He will be presenting some information on how Friendship Shelter prepares onboarding HMIS staff with their role-playing training. So Connor, can you please tell us a little bit more about that process?
Yeah. Can everyone hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
That is excellent. Yeah, so we have a process for training everybody on HMIS who will use HMIS as part of their responsibilities at Friendship Shelter. Most of our programs do live data entry at this point. So almost all of our frontline staff have HMIS account, and almost all of our frontline staff go through this training as a result of that. We've found the reason we do this is we've found that just taking the kind of check the box test on the HMIS training website, it's good and it's important to be equipped with that knowledge, but people typically understand better what it is that they're supposed to do if they've seen what HMIS looks like before they kind of get thrown to the wolves and have to do real data entry. So if you could go to the next slide. So we train everyone to ensure our data quality, that we have a data-driven culture, that we can reduce the silo effect, right? Of even one person who works in our grants department knows how to use HMIS so that they don't have to email me a question every time they want to know how many people are in a certain program, you know? They can just look it up themselves. And we found that that's a good thing. We also want people to have a knowledge of the whole organization, not just the program that they work in, right? We have 15 programs in all-time HMIS data. So by doing this training, everyone has an understanding of the whole agency. And we also, we talk about client confidentiality and informed consent during the training process, which is very important. If you could go to the next slide. So what we do for the training is it's an hour-and-a-half Zoom session with me. So we do it live. We have made a recording and we've thought about distributing it, just having people watch the recording, but we haven't gone to that yet. I think it's been good to get to actually talk to people and let them know why it is we do this. It's a mixture of me talking and also the two of us, or sometimes we do it in a group setting, doing practical role play of an HMIS enrollment and client creation process in the HMIS training website, right? So not in real HMIS, but so that we use that training website that we all use for the skills test to walk people through what doing an enrollment looks like. And so the content of the whole training is, first, I show people how we analyze the data. And we explain kind of some really theoretical stuff for maybe 5 or 10 minutes, just so everyone knows kind of why we do what we do. And then we role play through looking up a client, creating a new profile, creating an enrollment, assigning services, all the normal things that people will do in their daily work here. So if you could go to the next slide. So first we showcase our data analysis. This is an example of the internal dashboard that we use to track our performance in all of our programs here at Friendship Shelter. I refresh the data on this once monthly, and it's kind of like a mullet. It's business up front, party in the back. It's not the prettiest dashboard in the world, but it packs a lot of punch into one space. And the reason that I show people this isn't just to show off whatever, some graph that I made. It's so that people know that we actually do something with the data that they collect, right? Because a lot of people just feel like Fort Knox, they go in and nothing comes out. And we're putting the data to good use here at Friendship Shelter. So if you could go to the next slide. In that spirit, what I talk about when we talk about kind of theory data collection is I make it clear that data is not an unfunded mandate, a chore, a necessary evil, or something only receive funding, which I think is how a lot of people who, no one gets into the human services industry, or very few people get human services industry because they love data and taking notes, right? But if they know that this data is valuable to the people that we serve and will allow us to help people more effectively, that can get people excited about the process of collecting data. It's also necessary to ensure equitable outcomes, and that's a big part of the conversation. Right now, the United States is having a long overdue reckoning of its past of racism. And if we can't analyze our performance across racial and ethnic and gender lines, we will never know if we are equitably serving all of the people coming to for services. So if you could go to the next slide. So what the actual role play looks like is first look up a new client, and I show them some of the very basic normal problems people have in finding clients, like trying spelling the name a few different ways or typing it in only partially, right? Just little bits of the first and last name to make sure that it's not misspelled. Then the role play through creating a new client profile, where we talk about the release of information, the process of informed consent. So I don't go through and go line by line through the consent form at this point, but I encourage them to read the consent form so they're able to answer questions about the consent form as they're taking people through it. And I also explained to them the process of revocation of consent, that anyone is allowed to revoke their consent at any time, that we don't coerce people into consenting to share their data, and what to do if people don't consent. So go to the next slide. Then we create an enrollment, and we talk about some of the difficult fields, like approximately what date did your homelessness begin? I let them know. If they say, oh, it started in 1975, well, that may be true, but I'm going to rephrase this question a couple different ways, because what we want to know is when this episode of homelessness began. So I might ask, well, when's the last time you were living indoors? When's the last time you had a mailing address at a place that you lived, right? I might raise the question a couple different ways to figure out what's really going on here. And it could be 1975 for all I know, but it's just, it's letting me know that I might want to dig deeper there. I also let them know what the definition of chronic homelessness is. This is important, like if people are new to the industry of homelessness services, that's a really important definition that people need to know. So we explain that at this point. Then we go over how to assign services. We're currently moving both of our shelter programs into tracking all services and notes in HMIS, and hopefully phasing out paper within a few years. So we need to show people how to view the service, how to assign services specific to each program. And go to the next and final slide. We talk about creating assessments, what types of assessments there are, and the difference between the status update assessment and an annual assessment. We once had a problem in the program that needed to do annual assessments where all of them had been entered as status update assessments. So they were not appearing on the APR, right? And so we explain all of what these assessments are and how they work at this point. And finally, we talk about exiting enrollments. And the most important part of the conversation here is, right, the exit interview is just like the intake assessment, but I explain that we're going to compare how they respond to exit to how they responded when they came to the program. And that is kind of the basis for our performance within our programs. So I hope that that's helpful to everyone, but that is the process that we do over here. I would be more than happy to share more detailed notes or possibly even the video of a training that we've done. You're welcome to email me at cstevenson@friendshipshelter.org, and I will put my email in the little chat. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Connor. That was awesome. So these slides will be included as part of today's meeting minutes. And then Connor, if there's anything else you feel comfortable sharing with the whole group, you can go ahead and send them to us and we can include that as well if you're interested. Okay, so our last piece of business is just letting everyone know that the HMIS Help Desk will be closed on Friday, December 25th. and Friday, January 1st for the Christmas and New Year's Day holidays. So just be aware that on those days, we won't be responding to your tickets or answering phone calls same day, but we will get back to you as soon as we get back the following Mondays. Okay, so that's all the material that we had prepared for today. So if anybody has any questions, anything you'd like to see demonstrated in HMIS, you can leave it in the chat box now and we'll hang out for a few minutes so that questions can be answered. Okay, we got a question. Do all users have to take the CES training or just agency administrators? So users are required to take the CES training if they need CES access in HMIS. So if a staff member who's not an agency administrator still needs CES access in HMIS, they would have to take the CES training. Another question, is the proposed HMIS fee an eligible cost for the COC grants or must be paid exclusively from the agency funds? And I think Erin's going to grab that one.
Really quick to go back to Angie's question. So for coordinated entry, you should consider what your role is going to be or is. And this is both for the individual and family coordinated entry systems. So if your agency is considered an access point and is completing enrollments in VI SPDATs, anybody that needs to enter those enrollments or VI SPDATs will need to complete the coordinated entry training. If your agency is a housing provider, which means that you provide housing opportunities for households to be matched to, then the users at your agency that need access to coordinated entry will probably be a lot less because you only need access to a couple pages in order to enter what those housing opportunities are and to either accept or deny those housing opportunities. So kind of keep that, what your role is in mind when you consider which users at your agency need coordinated entry access. And then for Gary, is the proposed HMIS fee an eligible cost for the COC grants? Yes, Gary, so I don't know if you heard this first part, we're working on a third proposal that kind of takes in the feedback that we received regarding the first and second proposal. So you should plan to attend the policies, procedures, and standards meeting on 12/8 at 3:30 to hear what that new proposal is. But yes, those fees are an eligible cost under the COC grants.
So it looks like questions have slowed down. If anyone has additional questions, please enter them in the chat box and we'll stick around for a few more minutes just to make sure everybody's questions are answered. Okay, so it looks like that's all we had for today. If you have any more questions, please feel free to submit a ticket to the HMIS Help Desk or call us at the HMIS Help Desk line, which is 714-589-2360. We'll include answers from all of today's questions in the meeting materials, and we will see you all next month. Let me grab the date. Our next HMIS user meeting will be Wednesday, January 6th, and that meeting information will also be included in today's materials. All right, so thank you everyone. Have a nice day.